At the start of the film, Scarlett secretly crosses the Iranian border into the Habala region, where authorities have ordered a network of caves to be destroyed by sundown. She believes those caves may hold a crucial missing piece of history. Fully aware that trespassing here is punishable by execution, she makes it clear that she entered on her own free will. Next, Reza escorts her to his house and warns her that being caught would have severe consequences. But she insists she will be quick. He then slides aside a cabinet, revealing a hidden hole that serves as her secret way inside. He leads her to a carved wall, which she recognizes as more impressive than the photos. Ignoring his warnings, she begins chiseling it open, and despite Reza's fear of being heard, she forces the wall open, determined to see what's behind it. She retrieves her camera and enters the hidden chamber, stunned by finding what she identifies as the rose key. She explains her father spent his entire life searching for this, and she won't abandon it now. Fearing for his family, Reza leaves her behind, warning her to be careful. Scarlett continues to scan the marking, but moments later, she realizes she waited too long and runs back out, only to see a man hanging outside the chamber. He turns toward her, and an explosion erupts, throwing her violently through the cave. Panicked and disoriented by the blasts, she runs blindly, calling out for Reza. Eventually, she hears his voice, spots a light through the dust, and Reza pulls her out through the same hidden entrance they used to get in. As she catches her breath, Reza says she reminds him of her father and warns that his obsession led to madness. She insists her father wasn't crazy, but Reza counters that everyone who hunts Flamel's stone is, and they all end up dead. Next, Scarlett introduces herself on camera and explains that her father taught her everything about the philosopher's stone, an alchemical substance said to turn metal into gold and grant eternal life. She explains that alchemy was an early science focused on transformation, and that her father was the world's leading historian on it. Benji mentions rumors that her father was unstable, and Scarlett sharply asks if that's because he took his own life. She explains that 600 years ago, Nicolas Flamel lived in this house in Paris and was believed to have created the philosopher's stone, granting limitless wealth and eternal life. Years later, grave robbers searched his tomb for the stone and found his casket empty. She shows Flamel's tombstone, saying her father believed its arcane symbols concealed clues to the philosopher's stone, but their meaning remained a mystery until she discovered the rose key, which translates alchemical symbols into Aramaic. Although she can't read Aramaic, she knows someone who can. She meets George and introduces him to Benji, who is documenting her search for the stone. George immediately warns Benji to stay away from her, reminding him that the last time he followed her, he ended up in a Turkish prison. She reveals she found the rose key and needs help translating Aramaic, which leaves George stunned and asking if she went to Iran, but she dismisses it, saying it doesn't matter who went. Once outside, George agrees to translate, but nothing more. Working together, they translate key symbols. Realizing star refers to ammonia and sword to lime. An image gives Scarlett an idea that the key's message is hidden behind the tombstone. They remove it, but find nothing. Scarlett then connects it to a chemical reaction using common cleaning products. Ignoring George's warnings, she mixes the chemicals, coats the back of the tombstone, and lights it. A burst of sparks erupts at a single point, and beneath the scorched surface, hidden writing slowly reveals itself. They work through the riddle, and Scarlett concludes the stone lies 370.5 feet beneath Flamel's tombstone. When asked how they could reach that depth, she points to the Paris Catacombs, explaining that more than 200 miles of tunnels run directly beneath them. They study the maps and realize the catacombs don't pass beneath Flamel's grave. Scarlett suggests breaking through a nearby wall, but George points out it's solid limestone. He then recalls a series of historic street collapses: Avenue Denfert Rochereau, Barry Reed Yenfer, and Rue des Innocents, where the ground suddenly gave way. Scarlett and Benji join a guided catacombs tour, where she realizes they'd need to travel about half a mile through a wall to reach the spot. She says they must access the off-limits sections of the catacombs. A mysterious man tells her to go to a club and ask for Papillon, but just then, the tour guide calls them back, and when Benji looks again, the man has vanished. Later, at the club, they ask for Papillon, when a strange-looking woman steps out and walks away. As they continue searching for him inside the club, Benji spots the woman again. Scarlett eventually finds Papillon and asks him to take her into the catacombs, explaining she's looking for a hidden tunnel no one else knows about. He doubts it exists, but she insists it was built to be invisible and claims it's filled with treasure. Intrigued, Papillon agrees to help when she promises he and his friends can keep whatever treasure they find. The next day, when Scarlett tries to convince George to join them, Papillon introduces them to Zed, their climber, and Susie, the banshee. They enter a train tunnel and reach a hole in the wall that leads into the caves. Before going down, Benji explains that he's attached pin cameras to their headlamps. He activates the cameras on Scarlett and Zed to document their descent. As they start entering through the hole, Papillon presses George to decide, but suddenly, a police officer lunges at Papillon, slamming him to the ground. Chaos erupts as the others scramble into the hole, grabbing George and dragging him inside. Papillon breaks free, dives in after them, and hurls a smoke bomb back into the tunnel to cover their escape. After they catch their breath, Benji places a headlamp on George and turns on its camera, remarking that he clearly doesn't like caves, to which George asks if it's working, thanks him, and walks away. Scarlett then tells Benji that George's younger brother drowned in a cave when they were children. She then checks on George, asking if he's okay, and he says he will be. She apologizes for leaving him in Turkey, and he says he knows. When she tells him she's glad he's here, George makes it clear he isn't here for her, saying he agreed to be her translator. That's it. As they move deeper, they encounter other people in the tunnels, but Papillon brushes it off, saying there are always strange individuals down there. They then reach the spot from where they have to crawl inside, but Benji refuses to go through it. George mocks his guiding skills, and Papillon snaps back, making it clear he isn't a tour guide. And this is the route he knows. Scarlett points out an alternate corridor on the map, but Papillon says no one uses it because people who enter that tunnel don't come back. Scarlett dismisses it as an urban legend and argues it would save hours, but Papillon says her map doesn't account for flooded, collapsed, or dangerous passages. He then reveals they once had a friend who lived in the catacombs and knew every corridor, except that one. The friend believed something horrible was down there, went in to see for himself, and was never seen again. Papillon makes it clear that if they choose that corridor, he's not going with them. George tells her that the others know these tunnels better than she, and if the stone has been down here for 600 years, it can wait a few more hours. As they squeeze through the narrow opening and crawl forward, Benji soon gets stuck. Scarlett tells him to slowly force himself free, but the tunnel starts rumbling, sounding like it's about to collapse. Everyone panics, and Benji pushes with everything he has, escaping just as the tunnel caves in behind him. As they catch their breath, they realize they've somehow returned to the exact place they started. Papillon is confused, insisting this area wasn't there before. Scarlett reminds him he claimed to know the route, and Benji snaps, lunging at Papillon before Scarlett steps in to stop him. Papillon apologizes and tries to explain that there were no turns in the tunnel. Yet somehow, they still ended up back here. With no other choice, they take the forbidden corridor and are immediately shaken to find Papillon's name spray-painted on the wall. He insists he's never been here, and when George questions who would tag his name, Papillon admits he doesn't know. Suddenly, a phone starts ringing, startling everyone, and Papillon explains that phone lines once ran through the tunnels but were removed decades ago. When the phone rings again, Papillon knows something is wrong, yet they follow the sound. Moving deeper, they're stunned to find a piano in the tunnel, and George says he had the same piano as a child, which he used to play with his brother. He explains they only knew one song, but could never finish it because the A4 key was broken. He gets shocked to find the same key broken on this piano, and Papillon warns again that they shouldn't be here, but Scarlett insists they keep moving. Just then, the phone suddenly rings again, and Scarlett runs toward the sound. They reach a corner where the phone is still ringing, and as Scarlett hesitantly answers it, a man on the line asks why she won't talk to him. She asks who he is, but he repeats the question and then begins to groan, unnerving her enough to hang up. Suddenly, a man warns that none of them should be there, startling everyone. But Susie recognizes him as their missing friend, Latop. Papillon, shocked, admits he thought he was dead. But Latop accuses him of never coming to look for him. When Papillon approaches, asking if he is okay, Lotop asks them to follow him if they're trying to get out. He leads them into a chamber and pulls away wooden planks from the ground, revealing a deep tunnel beneath. Scarlet realizes this tunnel will lead them to the hidden chamber they've been searching for. She explains that if they reach it, they'll find their way out. They begin descending the tunnel one by one, but Benji suddenly slips, collides with George, and gets stuck. When George asks what happened, Benji says the clip somehow broke. After they get him down safely, Scarlet bandages his hand and tells him to let her know if it needs changing. As they move forward, George suddenly slips into the water and their voices become strangely muffled. Before they can react, a loud rumble shakes the tunnel, sending everyone into panic. Eerie sounds echo through the darkness, and a small child briefly appears. Then, just as suddenly, everything returns to normal. They hit a dead end, and Lotop admits he thought this was the way. Papillon snaps at him, but Scarlet calms everyone, pointing out they can't go back. George then notices a carving on a pillar, triggering Scarlet's memory of the riddle. The winged vulture leads the way. She follows the direction it points and finds a carved scarab. Scarlet explains it's an ancient Egyptian locking system, where you have to take the exact right stone from the exact right place, or the ceiling will collapse on you and kill you. George and Scarlet quickly run the numbers and choose the 7th stone, but the moment it's removed, the wall begins to crumble, and the tunnel shakes. A massive stone sphere slides aside, revealing a hidden passage. Scarlet and George jump through the opening and discover a dead man inside, perfectly preserved and untouched by decay. Nearby, they notice markings carved into the wall, including the word vitriol. Scarlet explains it's the central motto of alchemy: visit the interior of the earth, and by rectification, you shall find the hidden stone. Once everyone is inside, Scarlet rereads the riddle and tells them to turn off their headlamps. Benji refuses, pointing out the dead body, but she insists it will be fine. When the lights go out, a faint reflection appears on the floor, and she tells Benji to switch on his camera light. She then jumps into the water, and, checking under it, she tells them that there's a loose stone beneath the surface. Papillon joins her, and together they force the stone free, opening a submerged passage. Scarlet resurfaces, says she's going through, and before anyone can stop her, she dives under, swims through the tunnel, and emerges in a chamber filled with treasure. When George reaches her, she turns to him, saying it's real, and hugs him. Moments later, the others arrive one by one, and their amazement turns to joy as they take in the treasure-filled chamber. George says not to celebrate until they're out and asks Scarlet where the stone is. She recounts an ancient Egyptian myth. The earth god and sky goddess were lovers, separated by the sun out of jealousy, able to touch only by their hands and feet. Each morning, the sky goddess gives birth to the sun, and each night, she swallows him again, hinting at where the stone is hidden. She pulls the stone from the wall and immediately rushes to warn the others, but they force the door open anyway. At that moment, the ceiling begins to crack, and the tunnel suddenly collapses. Most of the group is badly injured as debris crashes down, and Laytop is completely buried under the rubble. Scarlet asks for bandages to help Susie, but Papillon tells her everything is buried beneath the stones. With no other option, Scarlet pulls out the philosopher's stone, grinds it into powder, and presses her hand onto Susie's wound. She screams in pain, but when Scarlet lifts her hand moments later, the injury is completely healed. Scarlet realizes the structure must have a hidden escape, even in the event of a collapse, and George agrees there has to be another way out. While searching the chamber, they find a carved symbol on the ceiling, and Scarlet identifies it as a mystical door, one that only works alongside another mark nearby. She points out the painting, as above, so below, explaining that it represents the idea that what exists above must also exist below. Applying this logic, she concludes that if there is a door carved above them, there must also be one beneath them. Papillon argues there's nothing beneath them, but when she strikes the ground, the water begins to drain away, proving the floor isn't solid and revealing a hidden passage below. They all jump down, where George notices writing carved into the wall and reads it aloud. "Abandon all hope. Ye who enter here." Papillon asks what it means, and Scarlet explains that, in mythology, it's the inscription said to stand over the gates of hell. They crawl through the tunnel and emerge into another chamber, only to realize it mirrors the treasure room. But Scarlet points out it isn't the same place, because everything is reversed. When Papillon realizes the entrance has vanished, panic sets in, but Scarlet urges everyone to keep moving to find a way out. They dive back into the water, searching for another route, but their lights begin to flicker as disturbing sounds echo around them. Panic spreads, yet they manage to surface and confirm everyone is still alive. A deep growl suddenly fills the room, and turning around, they see Laytop sitting there. Susie cautiously approaches to check on him, and when they shine a light in his face, he jolts awake, startling everyone. As Susie tries to calm him, he suddenly grabs her, slams her to the ground, and then smashes her head on the floor until she dies. Chaos erupts, and when they try to shine a light on Laytop again, he's gone. Papillon breaks down, begging Scarlet to save Susie. Scarlet uses the philosopher's stone in desperation, but realizes too late that it can heal the living, not bring back the dead. They leave her behind and move on when a voice whispers Scarlet's name. George asks if it's Benji, but Scarlet says she doesn't think so. She calls out to Benji, who answers, but only then does he hear a baby crying. He decides to ignore it, but the same mysterious woman slips past behind him. He turns around and asks if somebody is there, but when he gets no response, he raises his camera, and eerie whispers echo through the tunnel, before a woman suddenly appears and startles him. Moments later, Benji suddenly hit the ground with a sickening thud. The others rush to his side, calling his name in panic, but when they turn him over, the truth hits them all at once. His body is cold. Benji is already dead. They decide to move forward and press on through the tunnel, but George suddenly hears his brother Danny calling for help. He sees Danny drowning beneath the bones and panics, shouting his name and clawing at the ground. The others rush to him as he insists it's his brother and asks them get off the bones. Scarlet pulls him back, telling him it isn't real, and once he snaps out of it, she says they have to go. As they move forward, they come across a car engulfed in flames, with a boy sitting inside. Papillon whispers, "It wasn't my fault," and before anyone can react, an unseen force begins dragging him toward the car. Papillon screams for help, but the boy grabs him, and then the ground swallows him whole, leaving only his feet sticking out. Panicked, they rush forward to save him, only to realize it's too late. Papillon is already dead. As they move forward cautiously, they come across a figure sitting on a chair, wheezing and moaning. They quietly slip past, but screams suddenly echo through the tunnels. And when they turn back, the figure is now slowly standing. Terrified, they run for their life, but it instantly appears in front of them, forcing them to stop. And before they can react, twisted figures emerge from the walls and attack them. One of them bites into George's neck, but Scarlet fights back, and together with Zed, she drags George away as they flee, leaving one of the cameras behind in the chaos. Once they reach a safe distance, Scarlet pulls out the stone and grinds it, sprinkling the powder onto George's wound. But when nothing happens, she realizes it isn't working. George weakly says vitriol, triggering her realization that this isn't the true stone. She understands she must correct her mistake. Only by returning it can she find the real one. Just then, a monster's growl echoes through the tunnels, and Scarlet tells Zed she's going back. He tries to stop her, but she insists there's no time, saying George won't survive otherwise. Scarlet runs back toward the chamber, forcing her way past the creatures in the tunnels. As she enters a passage, she hears choking sounds beneath the water, and a bloodied hand suddenly shoots up and drags her under. Panicked, she fights it off and escapes, shaken but alive. She keeps running, breaking down as she crawls through a narrow tunnel and emerges to find a body hanging ahead, its face covered. She realizes it's her dad, but when she pulls the cloth away, it turns out to be herself. Horrified, she plunges into the water, swims through the passage, and finally reaches the chamber where the stone was found. Gasping for breath, Scarlet places the stone back where it belonged, correcting her mistake. As she looks for the true stone, she notices a mirror on the wall and sees her own reflection staring back at her. As Scarlet makes her way back, she encounters her father hanging once more. Overcome with guilt, she hugs him and apologizes for not answering his call that night, admitting she never knew how much pain he was in. And when she looks up again, her father disappears. She finally reunites with Zed and George, places her hand on George's neck, and kisses him. When she pulls her hand away, The wound is gone, and George suddenly coughs and comes back to life. As they flee through the catacombs, shadowy figures chase them until they hit a dead end, with only a vertical shaft dropping straight down. George lights a piece of paper and throws it in, while Zed says there's no way they can climb down there. But Scarlet tells them that they will jump. George panics and says they'll die, but Scarlet forces him to confront the guilt that's followed him. He finally admits that when Danny's leg got pinned, he promised to come back with help, but he got lost, and his brother drowned waiting for him. Scarlet then turns to Zed, and he admits he has a child he's never acknowledged. Scarlet then takes both their hands, counts to 3, and together, they jump. They fall for a long time before crashing violently onto the ground, and when the camera flickers back on, all 3 are still alive. But as they stand, they realize they're trapped again. Zed panics and starts screaming until Scarlet calms him down, and George then notices a manhole in the floor. They try to lift it, but it won't budge. Then George realizes it doesn't open up, it opens down. He tells Scarlet they have to push it straight down, then slide it to the side, and using all their strength, they manage to force it open. One by one, they climb out and quickly seal the lid behind them, finally escaping the catacombs. A recorded clip of Scarlet plays, where she explains she isn't doing this for money. She says she's a student of history and alchemy, and it would be of great historical value. When Benji asks if she's simply searching for the truth, she answers yes, and the movie ends here.